Hi, AJ. Thank you so much for asking this very important question. One of the best topics you honestly could have brought up. And the fact that you desire to find a way to integrate it and work within that tension speaks volumes about the journey that you are on. Quick context about Tantra: it can be divided into like little two sections, like sister belief systems, Tibetan Buddhism and Kashmiri Shaivism. This distinction is important because of the way the concept of nothingness gets looked at. Now, the appropriate term for nothingness in this case would be Shunya. There is a distinction. There's Shunya, then there's Shunyata. Shunyata is really what seems to be the case where AJ is bringing up this concept of like nothingness as fundamental truth, which is something I happen to agree with. And it's extremely terrifying, but not if we learn how to integrate it. But before we begin to learn how that works, I don't want to slingshot people all the way to the end and be like, what? Shunya is like the opposite side of Purnam? Because Purnam is infinity. So Shunya is really pregnant with potential. But how do we get from nothingness to infinity? How are they both the same sides, both two sides of the same coin? This requires us to kind of touch upon Pratitya Samutpada, which is dependent origination, which basically states that everything exists interdependently of one another, meaning nothing necessarily arises independently. Like, the only reason I know that this is a sweater is because this is a shirt, I'm a human, that's a ceiling, etc. Everything is connected almost like a grid in a node system. So if you pluck one out, then the surrounding nodes also kind of disintegrate. Now, when those disintegrate, the nodes around those also disintegrate. You remove one thing from reality, then over time, everything spreads and everything ends up dissolving. Everything we know, it exists in relation to one another, not in isolation. Here's the catch. Shunyata sounds really terrifying. But it's the same type of terrifying that we experienced as kids when we were being told that the sun would blow up in like 5 billion years and then the earth has 1.5 billion years before things happen. We're never going to be there to witness it, but conceptually, it terrifies us. Same thing with Shunyata. Think about it. In order for you to observe nothingness, know that the cosmic data is the universal set of everything, including you. If you are able to observe nothingness, and you are not nothingness, then you're not really in nothingness, if that makes sense, right? Because there's no separation between subject and object. The reason we're sort of warned against reifying reality is not to encourage nihilism. And I think this is where the East and the West really like get it like mixed up. It's actually supposed to promote a sense of joy, meaning that you can really make reality what you want it to be rather than being married to one calcified structure. I've had a history of DPDR, which is depersonalization, derealization disorder, hyperawareness, and existential OCD, psychosis, and some false memory / scrupulosity OCD. What does that have to do with nothingness? With DPDR and hyperawareness and existential OCD, I don't know if anyone's kind of gone through this, but it's first of all hell on earth. Second, how it feels is that you are kind of tapping into Shunyata being the truth there. Because what would happen is like, I could see through my eyeballs, but I could also feel kind of like the blackness or the darkness or the void behind my skull, knowing that like nothingness is the truth. This is why knowing consciousness is fundamental is key, because some of these psychiatric disorders are really kind of pointing towards cosmic truths, but we do not equip people with the tools necessary. And while Eastern philosophy is pretty advanced, we do need to find a way to translate these things and help people get embodied with the philosophy. Everything serves a purpose. So emptiness as truth is meant to regulate your nervous system into not being overly attached to reality. After self-experimenting for a long period of time, going deep within my own consciousness, it was, and I was having the symptoms start coming up again, because though I have like self-healed, the symptoms do come back. It's not quite the horror and hell it used to be, because I had like a 9-month episode where these symptoms would go on for hours throughout like the whole day. Another way to take a look at this is the fear that comes from, because I mean, let me be real, I'm kind of feeling it right now, but I have to remind myself too, for example, the desire to live and not die is evolutionary evolutionarily beneficial to human beings. And people have their different viewpoints on essence versus pattern based preservation and what happens after death with our consciousness. Is it reincarnation? Is it consciousness being smeared across plant matter and everything being shared? And like reincarnation sounds a little bit better because I get to preserve the essence of self. So when I think of that's essence based, but pattern based, these are the names I came up with, but pattern based is like, oh man, we all return back to this cosmic thing. Like, I don't want half of my consciousness smeared into something. It doesn't matter, because the only reason you fear that right now is because it's important for you to be human, to function and carry along how you're meant to. But once you pass, by the time you're in your next conscious state that continues on beyond a human form, you'll be fine there too. No matter where you go, you're going to be okay. We have to understand a lot of these things are a conceptual fear, and they are meant to be alchemized into something embodied. And the best way to do that is to remember that shunyata is the other side of emptiness, or the void is the other side of infinity, right? And of course, it is really terrifying to come back to nothingness as a fundamental truth. At the same time, you wouldn't be around to witness it. You wouldn't be aware that it's happening. If you really think about it, even our discussion we're having where we use the term shunya or emptiness or nothingness is kind of blasphemous or not the most honest. Think about how when you use like a word to describe something, you are essentially creating it as an object in the mind. Like if I say water bottle, I'm thinking of the object water bottle. So if I think of emptiness, I'm thinking of an object. If I think of an object, it has form. If I think of form, then I think of limitation. And the thing about nothingness is like, it can't, by giving it a word, you're giving it somethingness. So even in discussion, we will never really quite hit it. Of course, it makes sense that shunyata is the ultimate truth, because the concept of everything existing comes from, the concept of everything, it makes sense shunyata is the opposite, because it's like no thing. Everything that is here, once again, reiterating the fact that it is interdependent of one another. And as long as we're here, we're going to continue experiencing that for, until the end of time. I do hope I've answered your question. Sorry if there was a ramble, but if you do have more, definitely let me know, because I feel that this is something that can really help people be more heart-centered, because philosophy is not meant to make us numb and zombified. It's meant to be integrated so that we can have a more expanded view of what reality is and feel that we are the creators, and that we are not just sole creators, we're co-creators with higher intelligence in the cosmos.